Dodger talk, shall we? Maybe a little trash Dodger talk. Did you read in the Los Angeles Times that Frank and Jamie McCourt, from a period of 2004 to 2009, according to the LA Times, looking at their divorce documents, took in about $108 million and paid zero, that is $0, 0 cents in federal and state income tax? What did you think about that, especially at a time when ticket prices are going up an average of 35%, especially for low-end tickets, Dodgers adding $2 or $3 to the price of Friday and Saturday games. What did you think of this when you heard about this? 866-893-5722 is where you can call and talk to us about this. As the LA Times reported, the McCourts paying nothing in federal and state income taxes for the money that they made over the course of 5 years. These documents from their divorce filings in Superior Court in Los Angeles. How can it be that some couple, somebody earning $10, $20, $108 million, can pay no state or federal income tax? Dennis Brager is a tax attorney at the tax litigation law firm of Brager Tax Law Group, a former senior tax attorney for the IRS Office of Chief Counsel. Mr. Brager, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So none of this is illegal, but how do you do it?
Well, it helps if you also lose money in prior years. All of the documents weren't available, but what it sounds like from the LA Times report is that the McCourts had what's known as a loss carry forward, which means even though they earned $100 million from 2004 to 2009, they probably lost an equal amount in years prior to that.
Well, let's clarify what loss means. It isn't like that they have actual money in hand that's taken away. It's like imputed values?
Well, no, not all the time. As a matter of fact, in most cases, those can be actual real dollar losses. Now, granted, some of it may be due to depreciation, which in theory is sort of a paper loss. It's a way of looking at the drop in the value of certain assets, and that's not a real cash loss out of your pocket, but most of it is real dollars. Some of that might have been borrowed money. So that's possible. But most of that, and again, without looking at the tax returns, it's hard to know for sure. But in general, those were, real dollars that they probably, paid out of their pockets in prior years.
So what do you all think? Give us a call, 866-893-KPCC. Did you read the LA Times story that with an income of about $108 million between 2004 and 2009, Frank and Jamie McCourt didn't pay anything in federal or state income taxes? As we were hearing, it's perfectly legal with a bunch of business losses that you can write off and deal with. Dennis Brager is my guest, but we want to know how that struck you, especially at a time that Dodger ticket prices are going up. 866-893-KPCC. Call us and tell us what your thoughts, what your reactions were when you saw this. You may have probably in all likelihood paid more taxes than the McCourts over that period of time. So how does it make you feel? 866-893-5722. Dennis Brager, we hear so much about loopholes. I guess one man's loophole is another man's just business benefit.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, up till, I don't know, maybe about 15 or 20 years ago, most citizens were allowed to average their income over a multi-year period. So if you made $50,000, in last year, and this year you made $100,000, the government would let you sort of add those two numbers together and basically pay tax as if it was, at the rate attributable to $75,000. But they took away that benefit many years ago. Now, all you do is you do get to write off your business losses and keep carrying them forward. Let me give you an example of where the government doesn't allow you to do that and how awful it can become. For example, there were some people who made a lot of money in the stock market a couple of years ago, had big gains, paid tax on it. Now they have losses because the value of their stock went down, and they can't offset the gains against the losses. So that's what happens when you can't do the sort of thing that the McCourts did.
What options are there like this just for the guy who brings home a paycheck every 2 weeks? Are there any such options for deferring taxes, or to say what kind of losses are in fact tax deductible, or does it all have to do with millionaires and business structures?
Well, not necessarily millionaires, but it does have to do with businesses. The basic concept is if you lose money in business one year and you make money the next, you get to offset one against the other. But, the average person does have some loopholes of his own. The best one might be an IRA or a 401k at work. All homeowners in Southern California get to write off their real property taxes, the amount of interest they pay on their mortgage. So there's things for everybody. Of course, it always helps if you're making $100 million over a few years, but not all of us can do that.
Well, we're talking with Dennis Brager about the news in the LA Times that the McCourts, Frank and Jamie, paid no state or federal income tax from 2004 to 2009. Does this make you angry? Do you think that there's something wrong with the tax system, that it's possible to do that, or do you think maybe it's okay? Call us here, 866-893-5722, and let us know what you were thinking when you heard that and when you're hearing it now. Let's go to Justin, who's calling from the City of Industry. Justin, what have you got to say?
Well, the way I look at it, if it's completely legal, then I don't see any reason why they shouldn't go for it. And at the same time, I don't see how an increase in the price of ticket would have anything to do with their personal income.
We weren't talking about whether or not it did, but the fact that ticket prices would go up at a time when it was revealed that they had paid no state or federal income tax was a moment of maybe cognitive dissonance.
Well, I think that, as it was probably brought up, that there was probably a loss that they took on a prior year. And it's probably all, just like any of us, I think, would, if we were in the same boat and we had an opportunity, we'd rather not, I guess, pay those taxes if we're not forced to.
All right. Thanks so much. Dennis Brager, there's been so much talk about revising the tax code, making it fairer. We had Steve Forbes talking about a flat tax as part of his campaign for president. I know the matter of fairness doesn't figure in the IRS calculations, but isn't there a perception problem?
Well, I think there really is a perception problem, but I guess we can't necessarily blame that on the IRS. I hate to say this, but have to blame it on the media. When we see a report in the LA Times, it sort of makes it sound like the McCourts did something wrong, or that that they did something wrong, and I'm not sure that there is.
Well, no, the Times very clearly pointed out there's nothing illegal about it. But is it fair for some people not to pay taxes? I guess that's the question. When the rest of us, the every 2-week paycheck people, can't move these things around and can't take advantage of losses or things like that. That's the question I'm talking about. Is it fair for some people, like some businesses we hear of, to pay no taxes at all?
Well, I hate to be in a position of being an arbiter of fairness. I suppose you can look at it a couple of different ways. One is that we want to encourage people to invest in our economy, to take risk, and if things don't go so well, the system bears part of that burden.
And, of course, this entered the larger discussions. We were talking with the economist Joseph Stiglitz the other day about the idea of too big to fail, that is the tax system there to make sure that people don't bounce all the way to the bottom if they take business hits?
Well, I think that's true. And you look at, some of the European countries where, tax rates are very high, it's said that there's not as much entrepreneurial activity there. And so there may be a connection between these things. Let's
hear from Glendora, where Steve's waiting to tell us what he's thinking. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, hi, Pat. In a word, outrageous. And just to comment on the Northern European comment your guest made, by the way, the happiest people in the planet are from Norway, which obviously has the highest tax rate. So, it's I think your comment is a little disingenuous to the hardworking people out here who, by the way, some of us paid 40% in taxes last year and do not own a business and cannot game the system like the incredibly wealthy. And by the way, I do okay for myself, but I'm not a 100-millionaire, that's for sure.
Steve, thank you for that. We're getting some calls. Wes in Malibu says we need a flat tax, echoing what I was saying, that Steve Forbes, of course, ran for president on the flat tax idea. Ed is calling to saying it's a shame they're working the system. But Ryan in Long Beach says, hey, if you're smart enough to figure out how to avoid taxes, it shouldn't be a problem. So we want to keep hearing from you on this topic on the Pat Morrison page at kpcc.org. You can bet we'll be talking about it in the days and weeks to come. My thanks to Dennis Brager, the tax attorney at the tax litigation law firm Brager Tax Law Group. He's a former senior tax attorney for the IRS Office of Chief Counsel. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me,
And
Pat.
to keep hearing from you, as I said, on the Pat Morrison page at kpcc.org, where it's always open for business.